This is the true cost of a $2 burger. We're talking life and death and the future of humanity. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jun. Today, I'm gonna share with you 12 absolute reasons to go vegan. Honestly, I made this channel to make this very video. I'm confident enough to say that this will be the most dense and life-changing video on YouTube you have ever seen. So make sure you stay till the end. I used to love burgers and fried chicken and eggs, and I still do. But these, especially the last 5 reasons, are why I choose to live vegan and why we need to change the way we live as individuals and as a species. This is going to be as real and honest as it gets. And after this video, you will never see your choice and action the same way ever again. Now let me give you a disclaimer. Reason 2 includes some graphic footage for educational purposes, so if you prefer not to see it, you can just listen. Alright, let's get straight into this. 1. End discrimination and respect the basic fundamental right to live. We all know that humans are the most intelligent animals on the planet. However, we've done so many outrageous things throughout our history. It is valid to say that human rights issues are more important. However, we need to address the fact that we are teaching our children to discriminate against other beings based on how they look or which group they belong to. The second they're born. So in meat-eating societies, the idea or mentality of practicing discrimination and exploitation has always been part of us. And this creates what's called speciesism. It's the root cause of all primitive isms where we recognize someone's life as more valuable than another's. Intelligence does not define the worth of life. Intelligence and abilities do not justify doing whatever we want to those with less of those qualities. Every single sentient being deserves equal treatment, moral consideration, and the basic fundamental right to live their life. Carnivores and omnivores like lions and bears teach their children how to kill. But humans do the opposite. But we're actually doing something completely opposite of our values when it comes to consumption of food especially. The FBI states that children who abuse animals are potential red flags for domestic violence and murder. How can we expect our children to not harm and oppress other humans for whatever stupid reasons when we teach them to disrespect the lives of little fish in the ocean? Ending animal abuse and exploitation is the key to ending any form of discrimination and making a more equal and compassionate society with harmony. Speaking of human issues, oftentimes in countries like the US, a significant percentage of the slaughterhouse workforce, which is huge, is African American or other minorities. Slaughterhouse workers are reported to have the highest rates of depression and suicide. And in many cases they are undocumented, so the industry exploits those people with less power to do the work no one wants to do. They suffer from both physical and psychological injuries, and it's recognized as the most dangerous occupation in the US. So non-human animals aren't the only victim of exploitation by the industry. 2. Veganism is a feminist issue. Veganism takes a stance against the exploitation, objectification, and systematic oppression of females and male supremacy. Humanity has been considering women and non-human animals as less than men. And in the animal agriculture, female animals are exploited for their reproductive system, the ability to menstruate, breed, and lactate. Let's take dairy cows for example. Farmers forcibly impregnate female cows against their will in what's called a rape rack. That's the industry term. An industry term, guys. They stick their entire arm in her anus and a long metal stick in her vagina and insert bull semen. Now she's selectively bred, so she could produce 10 times more milk than her body is naturally designed to, which of course causes lots of physical distress. And after 9 months, when the baby is born, of course they're taking away from her within a few hours or that moment. Yes, that's the last time the mother sees her baby. And this is the mother's love and frustration. Because if the baby drinks the milk, that would mean less milk for us. If the baby was a male, he is killed immediately for the veal industry. And if she was a female, she's locked in a small crate where she's oftentimes abused. Look at this. This is the standard practice all around the world. The animals are nothing different than factory machines. This has nothing to do with the circle of life or the notion of food chain. This is mass production. And what happens to the mother who just lost her baby is that she gets forcibly impregnated again and again and again for her entire life until her body gives up. Now, females are devalued when they're no longer able to reproduce or have sex. We see this happen in our society. And in animal farming, what happens to the mother is, after a lifetime of getting pregnant and breeding for the industry, she is considered spent and sent to a slaughterhouse to have her throat slit open and have her turned into burger patties. We do all this so we can drop cow's milk in our cups of coffee when we can easily swap to soy milk or almond milk or oat milk. They never gave us consent to use their bodies to produce those dairy products. They physically cannot. Therefore, we do not have the right to do so. This is simply abuse. Same thing with eggs, just with chickens. And speaking of the link between this and male supremacy, meat eating has been considered manly because real men eat meat, right? Well, they used to. But today, after all the mass production and exploitation of animals, what's so manly and sexy about it? We have to grow up. Simply going vegan does not fix this rape culture, but the real issue is we cannot take a stance against the rape culture while consuming it at the same time. 3. Live a compassionate life and cause minimal suffering and pain possible. I don't want to cherish dogs and cats and say I'm against animal abuse and be part of the pig, cow, and chicken abuse. That's just really hypocritical. Now, this isn't entirely people's fault. In the Western society, we're conditioned to believe that dogs and cats are pets and think cows and pigs and chickens are for us to eat. Let's keep in mind, the animals do not care. They don't care if we personally connect with them or not when it comes to their survival. They just simply want to live. The only difference between a cow and a dog is our perception. They're all individualistic and are sentient beings. They have friends and family. They communicate, feel and express joy, anxiety, fear, suffering and pain. They get depressed. I will never kill an animal myself for food. Therefore, it is inconsistent with my value to pay someone else to do so on my behalf and create false justification. By switching to a plant-based diet, you can save anywhere from 100 to 200 animals a year personally. That is, hundreds less animals dying for you personally. 4. We do not need to consume animals to survive and thrive. So this is all about necessity. Again, we're conditioned to believe that we need meat and dairy to stay healthy and strong, and that it's simply not true. I mean, why do I even have to tell you cow's milk isn't meant for us? The link between the consumption of animal products and the top killing diseases are proven by a countless number of studies. The world's largest dietetic associations have stated a plant-based diet is nutritionally adequate and healthy at all stages of life, including pregnancy. We can get all the nutrients that we need, like protein and iron and calcium and omega-3 from plants with better quality, with no cholesterol whatsoever. We have zero omnivorous characteristics or instincts. If your jaw moves sideways like this, you are an herbivore. Omnivores can't do that. In our stomach acids and intestinal tracts and all that, humans meet every requirement as herbivores. The fact that high cholesterol levels lead to clogged arteries and heart disease shows that we're herbivores. Cholesterol is never a problem in the omnivore's digestive system. Speaking of human instincts, if we saw a hurt animal on the street, if you are a natural meat eater, you should feel hungry when you see the blood and flesh. But we feel the opposite. We feel sympathy, disgust, and sadness. And we rather try to help the animal. While a video of one animal being rescued on social media makes us feel happy, this is what we do to hundreds of animals a year personally. This tells us that we're so disconnected from the reality, but fundamentally, the only reason we consume those animals is for our taste buds, which are a sensory pleasure, which is actually a highly dangerous justification to use to harm others. Those are the most innocent beings. They have done nothing wrong to us. Who are we to take their life away from them because of how their flesh tastes or how their milk tastes? The fact that we can thrive without any animal products makes the exploitation and mass murder of animals completely unnecessary. You have the right to choose, but when your action involves a victim, you have to have a damn good justification for it. And when the action is unnecessary, you cannot justify it. Taste does not, convenience does not, culture and tradition does not. You have the right to decide whether you take their life or not. However, the animals do not have the right to object to it. Therefore, if you decide to consume them, your personal choice is a moral violation. Just because something is legally or socially acceptable, it doesn't mean it's morally acceptable. 5. Combat climate change. The animal agriculture is the leading cause of global warming. Livestock and its byproducts are responsible for 51% of all greenhouse gas emissions, which is far more devastating than all the transportation systems on Earth combined, which only adds up to 13%. The methane emitted by agriculture is 86 times more destructive than CO2. It is responsible for 65% of the world's nitrous oxide, which has 296 times more global warming potential than CO2 by volume. By simply switching to a plant-based diet, you can reduce your carbon footprint by 50%. We're running out of land to raise livestock animals and the crops to feed them, but the industry has been trying to catch up to the growing demand for meat due to the growing human population, resulting in up to 91% of the Amazon rainforest destruction. The United Nations lists meat as the world's most urgent problem and stated that we need to shift to a plant-based diet to avoid the worst climate crisis. A 2018 study conducted by Oxford University concluded that adopting a vegan diet is the single best way to reduce our impact on planet Earth. You might say, well, what about energy and transportation? First of all, they don't compare. Second, diet is something we can easily implement daily. It's the most practical and easiest thing we could do as consumers. 6. Protect the wildlife from habitat destruction and extinction. Animal agriculture is also the leading cause of species extinction, habitat destruction, ocean dead zones, and many more. The Amazon rainforest is being cleared at a rate of an acre per second. That is the size of a football field. And as a result, 100 animal and insect species are going extinct every single day. Our biodiversity is seriously threatened. In the US, an agent of the government kills about 2.3 wild animals a year just to protect the animal farmers' financial interests. So consuming those animals kills other animals like bears, wolves, coyotes, beavers, and otters. This is also why deer hunting is ever a legal thing. Now, killing should not be the first thing that comes to mind when solving a problem. We need to eliminate the root cause of the problem first. Because of global warming, the ice is melting and the polar bears are losing their habitat. The animal waste contaminates waterways, and this affects humans as well with E. coli and salmonella contaminations. It's responsible for the 500 nitrogen-flooded dead zones in the oceans. For every pound of fish caught, up to 5 pounds of unintended marine species are caught and discarded as bykill. 3/4 of the world's fisheries are exploited due to overfishing. And we could have fishless oceans by the year 2048. In fact, scientists agree that if we don't change the way we live, we're gonna be the next mass species extinction. 7. Save resources. Animal agriculture is the leading cause of water depletion. It takes 660 gallons of water, that is 2 months of non-stop shower, to produce just one beef hamburger. 1,000 gallons of water are required to produce just 1 gallon of milk. We're told to reduce our water use. However, in the US, domestic water use only accounts for 5% of the country's water use. Animal agriculture is responsible for 55% of it. It uses staggering 1/3 of the Earth's fresh water. Producing a plant-based burger like the Beyond Burger takes 99% less water, 93% less land, 90% less greenhouse gas emissions, and 46% less energy. A person on a plant-based diet is responsible for 1/6 of an acre of land. On the other hand, a person on an omnivorous diet takes 18 times more land than that. 8. Prepare to feed the growing human population and avoid food crisis. The animal agriculture is responsible for the largest form of food waste. 80% of the global farmland is used for animals, but only produces 18% of the food calories and 37% of protein we eat. Beef production is among the worst. It wastes 96% of the food used. This is ridiculously inefficient. Every 100 grams of protein fed to a cow only produces 4 grams of protein and 2 grams of calories. So why don't we eat those 100 grams of protein directly? If we switch to a plant-based diet, the US alone would already have enough land and resources to feed the entire human population on Earth. The Amazon rainforest would no longer be cleared for food production, and much of the global farmland would be restored back to its natural state, simply because we wouldn't need it anymore. And the wildlife would come back. More greenhouse gas would be absorbed by the forests. Sooner or later, we will have to be eating a plant-based diet or an insect-based diet, but the insect part neglects the whole moral side. But that aside, we have to change the supply and demand situation today to get ready to feed the world. 9. Veganism could potentially reduce world hunger. So this is a human rights issue and is a highly debatable topic even within the vegan community. That's why I said potentially and reduce. I know it's not gonna fix it, but it could reduce it. Today, more than 800 million people are hungry. That is 1 in 10 humans. 70 billion animals are raised for food for 7.8 billion humans. Just the 1.5 billion livestock cows alone eat more than 6 times more food and drink nearly 9 times more water than the entire human population does. And after all the environmental damages, 50% of the world's grains and nearly 70% of the grains in the US are fed to livestock animals that we do not even need and didn't have to be bred into existence just to suffer, so we can filter all the Earth's nutrition through their bodies. We're fattening up the animals while humans are starving. Now, in a capitalist society, it's fair to assume that going vegan will not fix world hunger. However, it is critical to note that 82% of the starving children live in countries where food is fed to animals that are then consumed by Western societies. The farmland in those countries are mostly manipulated by large agricultural or food processing companies from the West. Those countries have surplus of food production, but they're exporting it for livestock that is consumed by us instead of feeding the local people. This is the true cost of a $2 burger. This is a human rights issue, guys. We're talking life and death and the future of humanity. If you say we have bigger things to worry about than animal rights, then by your own logic, you are obliged to be vegan. If we stop taking their land and resources away from them, they'll be able to grow their own economy and feed their own people. 10. Prevent future pandemics. Now, COVID-19 has changed everything in this world. The way we live, the way we communicate. Now, I'm not blaming the wet market in Wuhan at all, but there's a direct link between pandemics and the practice of animal farming itself. I mean, if we looked at past pandemics, many or most of them could be traced back to an animal farm. In most farms, animals are packed in a small room under ridiculously stained condition. The animals live and sleep on their own feces. And in the US, 80% of the antibiotics are sold to animal farmers and fed to the animals. It increases the risk of creating antibiotic resistance. It happens when the bacteria adapts and makes the antibiotics ineffective. It's not only going to spread various viruses from the animals, but also make very common diseases untreatable. And because of this, 700,000 people are dying every year. Today, the World Health Organization has stated that this is the biggest threat to global health. We have to learn from this experience. We cannot let something worse than COVID-19 happen in the future. Experts predict that if we don't get this under control, there will be 10 million deaths each year by 2050. 11. 10 minutes of sensory pleasure isn't worth more than the entire life of an animal, starving human lives, and the future of our planet and humanity. 12. There's absolutely zero reasons to not be vegan. Veganism is more than just a diet, a lifestyle, or philosophy. Our healthiest diet just happens to be the best for the animals and all the other species on planet Earth, the health of our planet, and for the progress of humanity and our society. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I will be talking about each of those in detail in my future videos. See you next time.